Hello everyone, welcome. Today I'm going to show you how we built a real enterprise grade software projects initially projected for 4 months to just 2.5 days using AI accelerated development approach. To give a context, our finance and logistic team needed a solutions to extract data from millions of invoices. As you know, in logistic, every shipments generate invoice. They come from multiple vendors in different formats. Our finance team struggles to mine this data for various purposes like creating spend analytics, tax reportings, and reconciliations. Before I jump into the demo, let me explain how we got here. I've been experimenting with many vibe coding tools like Bolt, Lovable, Replit, Emergent, Copilot, and most recently OpenAI's Codex. From these experiments, one thing I learned is that the traditional way of developing software, or in fact agile, do not fit the new way of building software using AI. That is why I decided to write the key vibes of the vibe programming in a simple, practical way to deliver enterprise systems. In step one, I call it as visions to sketch. Like every system start with a vision. So we drew an architecture. You can see the initial design of the system, which is an event-driven architecture by getting invoices from an external system called Beams to a cloud block, and logic app orchestrating, AI extracting, Cosmos DB storing. This gave everyone clarity before a line of code was written. In step two, I call it as prompt seed to prompt police. So we started with the basic instructions in a plain language, like traditionally what we call it as in pseudocode. The idea is not to write the whole literature, as the objective is to save time. Then we gave this to ChatGPT, generate the whole full-blown master prompt aligned with OpenAI's Codex agent. Here you can see what the prompt looked like. Then we policed it, making it enterprise ready with schema rules, data normalizations, and few validation checks. Then in step three, which is one of the important part, is like we onboarded the Codex developer agent. The Codex dev agent expect an environment. So it is like setting up workstations for a new developer. We tell it which GitHub repo to use, what runtimes to install, and in my case, I choose C#. I also made sure the agent had no internet access. That means it only works within a dedicated environment and does not pull code from outside repos, keeping everything secure. Then I copied the whole prompts generated by ChatGPT to the Code X window and hit the code buttons. Within 15 to 20 minutes, the agent built the entire software for us. And like a good developer, it even created a pull request, which I reviewed and merged it into the main branch. The merge step is very important. It avoids risk like we've seen in recently a vibe coding tool called Replit, which deleted the entire production's code base. With a proper PR workflow, recovery is always possible. Finally, we just did a git pulls to bring down all the code and asset. And here is what we got. A nice readme.markdown with a clear instructions, something I really appreciated. Then we move to the next step called as infrastructure provisionings. In the report, there is an infra folder that uses Bicep and PowerShell scripts to create all the cloud resources we need. Because our solutions was based on a pure cloud native low-code solutions, we just executed the infra scripts against the subscriptions. And after some times, the whole magic happened. In about 20 minutes, all the architecture component was created automatically, including a mock API, which we could use for testing rather than connecting directly to our external systems. All the components you could see are come with preloaded. The logic and code is already written by the AI. For example, when I open the fast logic app, here is what it is already set up to do. Run once every day, call an external interface, right now a mock API to get all the invoice, then post the PDFs to blob storage, publish the message to a service bus saying the invoice is ready for processing. If I open the next Logic app, the workflow, what it has coded is pick up the invoice message from service bus, read the file from blob, call the Azure OpenAI to extract the data, and store the structured JSON into Cosmos DB. So in under half an hour, the environment was live, connected, and ready to process invoice end to end. Now we jump to the next byte called fix and run. Like no system worked perfectly the first time. Our fast run failed and threw a few errors like it did not understand the correct endpoint for blob, service bus, storage, which was quite natural. The processor tried to run before the invoice file had been finished. That is another issue we found. And the third most important was it was calling a wrong endpoint of Azure OpenAI. Uh, Possibly we would have handled that as part of the prompt, but anyway, we did a couple of iterations, and the most important thing is we know how to fix them. With a couple of quick iterations, all within about 3 hours, we got our very fast invoice processing successfully. From there, we tested the solutions with real scenarios, validated the outputs, and confirmed it integrated smoothly with the existing enterprise workflow. At this point, our visions are truly turned into value. And while we would spend another week or two during full end to end testing before moving into business testing and eventually productions, this phase already left us with some valuable lessons. We realized that prompt cannot just be quick notes. They need governance, just like code. They deserve versions control, peer reviews, and a clear process to track how they evolve throughout the from the drafts to the final one. At the same time, even the smallest details prove critical. Something as simple as encoding parameters, what we encounter. For example, in a multi-part request can quickly break an entire pipeline, forcing us to dig deeper into things we often overlook. Security too showed us an uncompromising role. In an enterprise settings, there is no debate, like key secret certifications must live inside a keyboard. Anything less is exposed. Codecs like agents are well aligned with this. That's some good learning for us. Finally, we saw that iteration cycles in this space are short and rapid. The same rigor and disciplines we apply in software delivery still matters, just compress into a tighter loops. That's all. So when people say hype coding is just for toy web apps, remember this story. In just 2 days, a small team went from regions to a working enterprise grade system. It integrated with real platforms, services, respect security practices, and extensibles to ERP, dashboard, and more. This is not a demo. This is a transformations experiment. And that's the promise of the AI accelerated development, which we will see in the current situations. On a side note, I've been exploring a different approach to the development life cycles that I call as visions to values. It's about turning ideas into enterprise-ready outcomes with speed and disciplines, almost like challenging the old project management triangle, saying you cannot balance quality, scope, and time together. If this sparks your interest, then feel free to connect with me. I would be happy to share more. Thanks again for the collaborations and support throughout the journey. Thank you again.